As we welcome you to Power Rankings presented by the long-lasting power of Energizers.
Still going.
He's the Zeuser, Dan Hanzus, the front man of this outfit, the Art Alexakis, if you will. Well, I'm just strumming the rhythm guitar, man, or plucking a bass. Trying to make some sweet music to enhance what he's laying down. Is that okay, Dan? You all right with that?
I'm fine with an Everclear reference.
Living with your ghost.
Great single.
All right, Dan. It is week 5, and here is your 1 through 8, the top of the pops. No surprise, Kansas City Chiefs, the Super Bowl champions from last season, sit at number 1 at 4-0 after knocking off the Patriots in an odd Monday nighter following some COVID-19 complications with Cam Newton. Green Bay right there at number 2. And before we get to anything else, let's just start there. Let's start with what would be the Dan Hanzus Zeuser Super Bowl, if you will, because that is an AFC and an NFC right there at the top. What's the gap for you between the Chiefs and the Packers? How close are those two teams at 1 and 2?
I think the Chiefs are the clear-cut one still. I didn't have any deliberations, if that's what you're asking, after Monday night, wondering if the Packers should be number 1. But at the same time, I think that the Packers are the clear-cut NFC favorite. So, yeah, they are like my Super Bowl right now. And watching what Aaron Rodgers did on Monday night, missing his top 2 wide receivers, my goodness. I mean, see, I win this week. What a performance. And he's at this place now where it doesn't matter who's on the field. Aaron Rodgers is locked in, and he turns Robert Tonyan, or maybe it was the Falcons defense turns Robert Tonyan into the next Travis Kelce. But the team is just humming. The defense is playing well. It is a well-rounded group right now.
All right. Let me play the role of contemplative man now as I put my glasses in my mouth. And I think if that wasn't a splendid query, perhaps this will be. What about the gap, as we saw in your 1 through 8, between the Packers at number 2, and then you got AFC teams, 3, 4, 5, before you get to the Seahawks? How big is that gap between the Packers and the Seahawks?
All right, I'll do this one. I'll raise you. The Packers and the Seahawks? No. Okay, this is ridiculous. The Seahawks, obviously, there's a lot to love about them, but the difference between Seattle and Green Bay right now is that Green Bay has things figured out pretty much, and they are at their top speed. The Seattle Seahawks, although they made gains in week 4 on the defensive side of the ball, I still don't trust them. So from that standpoint, I have to say that the Seahawks staying outside the top 5, I know it's got a lot of Seahawks fans mad because my mentions are kind of lousy with criticism over it. But, you know, they've been lit up much of the season. So I think that Seattle, while 4-0, which is obviously the first time they've done that since 2013, they're going to need to be better once the competition tightens up.
And by the way, I do love the idea, because I'm a horrible person, that Bills Mafia across the land is sitting over the first 4 minutes of this power ranking show going, did they just jump from 2 to 6? Did those two idiots just go from 2 to 6? And they're not going to talk about our 4-0 Bills. No, of course we are, because it's one of the great stories through the first quarter of the season. The Bills at 4-0, clocking in at number 4, Dan.
Yeah, hear me out on this one, Money. I am not saying Stephon Diggs is Randy Moss, because there was only one Randy Moss. But when you think about when's the last time a wide receiver joined a team and had such an immediate impact where it just lifted everyone up, that's what I think Diggs' impact has been for Josh Allen, who had even last season when Allen took a step forward as a passer, he had solid wide receivers in Smokey Brown and Cole Beasley. But Diggs just changed everything, I think, for them and made them a type of offense that can say, okay, the game script's a little bit off. Okay, we just forced a turnover. Let's bomb it 50 yards downfield and step on the throats of our opponent like they did against the Raiders. What a pickup.
Yeah, no doubt. And look, a quarterback is perhaps only as good as his circumstance, his coaching, his weapons. But I think also we've kind of found ourselves in uncharted territory with unrealistic expectations as it pertains to young quarterbacks. And it kind of started with Andrew Luck, that he came into the league and was immediately able to, kind of accomplish what he was able to accomplish in Indianapolis. And then after that, it was Patrick Mahomes, who won an MVP in his second year and won a Super Bowl in his third year. Now Lamar Jackson in his second year wins the MVP. Kyler Murray was great his rookie year. Josh Allen's trajectory is more what we're used to. It's, you're a rookie. Okay, well, go out, figure it out. You're going to make a bunch of mistakes. And everybody was on him for his completion rate. No, he's running too soon. And then he took a step last year with John Brown and helped get the Bills into the playoffs. And this is what it's supposed to look like when you're 6'6" and you have the strongest arm in the league and you're built to some degree like Cam Newton and have that level of athleticism and can run. This is what the Bills thought they were drafting. And I think this, if you ask them, even with, the truth serum, the sodium pentothal, they would tell you, yeah, this is what we thought that Josh Allen was going to look like. And this was the path that we thought he would be on. And he's here. And it's a darn good team. And I suspect they're going to stay in the top 5 for the rest of the season.
I mean, how can you doubt them? This is no fluke at all.
So there you go, Bills Mafia. There's the celebration that you thought we glossed over. Now, going past number 6 in the Seahawks, let's get to that number 8 team and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and what you saw from them to move them up now into the first quadrant.
I don't know how you wouldn't be super excited about the Bucs right now because Tom Brady throwing 5 touchdown passes. That was the only thing that kind of you were wondering, is this offense going to be as good as the offseason hype? And each week, each of the 4 weeks has gotten incrementally better, and then it made this big leap against the Chargers. And it showed that, to be a truly great team, you need balance because your defense isn't going to ball out every week and your offense isn't going to put up 35 every week. So this was a week where the Bucs defense, which is one of the better units in the league, in my opinion, had some issues against Justin Herbert, who was beating him with deep balls. And then the offense said, all right, we'll pick you up this week and we'll put up, 5 touchdowns and we'll go from there. So I think the ceiling got higher for the Bucs after watching them on Sunday.
I think, Herbert just played an exceptional game, and he's an exceptional talent. He's 6'6", much like Josh Allen, just giant arm.
Are you surprised by this, Money, as the voice of the Chargers, that he's hit the ground running?
Herbert didn't do this at Oregon because Mario Cristobal didn't ask him to do this. So we just assumed, it's going to take him time to figure out how to play in the NFL. So I am surprised that someone who did not look and play like this in college is able to do it in his first 3 games and play at such a high level. But as far as the Bucs are concerned, what I would say is, that defense is exceptional. The interior of Vita Vea and Ndamukong Suh, you can't run on it. You just can't. So you're going to have to figure out how to beat him through the air. And Antoine Winfield, he is tracking to be in the conversation of Defensive Player of the Year. Carlton Davis is a great corner. Levante David, he's basically the mold, right, for the modern-day linebacker. The smaller, ridiculously quick, tackles everything on the field. So all those check-down routes, you're not getting those either. This is the second best team in the NFC to me. I would have had them ahead of the Seahawks. And I think that's where they're tracking as you now see Brady get better and more comfortable week after week. That was Bruce Arians' offense, right? The guy ran 4 verticals with 3 tight ends on the field, and it led to that O.J. Howard touchdown. And Tom Brady is now getting more comfortable in that system, man. And that is darn scary. And by the way, you can see the Bucs on Thursday Night Football as they travel to Chicago to take on the Bears. Coverage starts at 6 p.m. Eastern on NFL Network, followed by kickoff at 8 p.m. on NFL Network, Fox, and Amazon Prime Video. Up next, the most prodigious move on power rankings was produced by the Panthers. Who'd have thunk they'd be in our second quadrant after a 0-2 start. But then again, who'd have thunk there'd be a bear out there in the stands?
What's that bear doing?
Like a bear.
Panther.
That's Sir Herbert.
Who?
Sir Herbert.
How you say that?
Sir Herbert.
Sir Purr. Oh, Sir Purr? Wow. You call him that?
Yeah, that's his name.
So you be like, what's up, Sir Purr?
Now on Power Rankings, presented by the long-lasting power of Energizer, here's our second quadrant, 9 through 16. Yeah, it was a bit of a fight for the Rams, but hey, the Giants are an NFL team, and it's never easy to win a game in the National Football League.
That's
so
the bar they're setting
the
now in
Rams.
East Rutherford money. They're a team.
They are an NFL team. They are a team that plays in the National Football League. But
better than the Jets.
Let's focus on the bottom half of your 9 through 16 there, and that is the 49ers at 14. We're going to start there, and then we're going to get to the Panthers. But the 49ers were the number 2 team after making a trip to the Super Bowl as the representative of the NFC. They have been ravaged by injuries. Where are you at, and how'd they find their way to 14 this week, Dan?
Yeah, they were a tough one for me to place this week because on one hand, you lost at home to an Eagles team that is clearly searching for it right now and is all sorts of banged up, especially on offense. Carson Wentz and Miles Sanders are basically alone out there trying to find a way to make things work without their wide receivers or offensive line. So the inability to get a win against the Eagles team like that, it's going to drop you in the power rankings. But then on the other side of it, and you hate to put too much blame on one player. Look at that throw. Alex Singleton is a special teams guy with the pick 6 to clinch the game. I don't, not to pick on Nick Mullins, but he was getting praised last week, so it's only fair. He lost the game for the Niners. He misses that shot, that easy completion to Kyle Juszczyk early in the game that could have gone for 6. The pick 6 that we just saw that essentially ended the game. With the players that are coming back, and you saw, Kittle was dominant, and you saw Deebo Samuel doing his thing. Brandon Ayuk with that hurdle into the end zone. Get Jimmy G back in here, and if he's healthy, I think the Niners are going to be fine. So I dropped him a little bit, but I still arrow up. So a little bit of a whatchamacallit.
No, I think it's a perfect assessment. That was on Nick Mullins, and the idea that people were saying, is Nick Mullins your starter when Jimmy's healthy? That was just stupid. Come on, it's ridiculous, and you saw it in that game. But you alluded to what's going to move the 49ers back up, so relax, 49er fans. See, look at this. I'm being protective of you, Dan.
Aww,
stop coming at Dan for dropping him to 14, because who are you going to put him in front of? Until you know that Beathard, or it was just a hiccup for Mullins, or that Beathard can, play competent football the next couple weeks until Garoppolo gets healthy, it should be easier. George Kittle's the toughest tackle in the NFL. You saw what Deebo Samuel was able to do from Kyle Shanahan, the best play caller in the NFL, which is why I think 14's right. That's still the very back end of the playoffs because of what you believe the talent is overall on that team. They just kind of need to get the injury situation sorted out, which can be said for a lot of teams. Not the Panthers, though. As we move to the Panthers here, Dan, this is just a young team that grew up in a hurry after starting 0-2. They're kind of showing you, especially on defense, that these young guys are getting more and more comfortable, and this might be a sneaky team.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Sneaky team. I think I called them certified frisky in the NFL.com write-up. And usually if I have a team going up or down this far and it's 9 spots, to number 15, I am essentially admitting failure that I didn't have it right the week before. And perhaps that's what it is. But forget about that. If you're a Panthers fan, when you were 0-2, 0-2, and Christian McCaffrey goes down with a high ankle sprain, you just assume the season's going to spiral. And instead, they've won their last 2 games without McCaffrey. They're lighting it up on offense. And Joe Brady and Teddy Bridgewater, they got something cooking there between these 2 guys. And a shout-out to Bridgewater, who had his first touchdown run since that horrific knee injury in the summer of 2016. That looks like a great signing, and kudos to the Panthers because me and a lot of other people thought he was a bit of a meh signing in the offseason.
So, I'll just kind of focus on the defense. And remember the Chargers. I call the Charger games. They played them 2 weeks ago. The tape that I saw of the prior 2 games, the defense was terrible. There was one player really that splashed, Patrick Chin, their second-round pick, who has been fantastic. I mean, he is, what you thought Isaiah Simmons was going to look like against, on the Cardinals here. And Chin's just playing better than he is. He is all over the field. Well, Derek Brown flashed against the Chargers. He was in Justin Herbert's lap that entire game. This past week, Yetur Gross-Matos gets his first sack. You have the corner in Troy Pride, who's been pressed into play. Dante Jackson's another young corner. So you have a staff. And look, Phil Snow's their defensive coordinator. He's a college guy. Joe Brady, of course, spent time with Sean Payton and the Saints, but, really kind of made his bones in his name by, by coordinating the passing attack for Joe Burrow and LSU to a national championship. you're going to hear his name mentioned in head coaching conversations, I would assume, by the end of this year, how good of a job he has done, which is a patchwork offensive line, no Christian McCaffrey, and I think it just speaks to the system and the talent that they're comfortable with in that system and how they're operating. Just get the ball out quick, and they're making it a nightmare for opposing teams as those young guys on defense start to grow up. So,
it bothers me.
There. Yes.
It doesn't bother me on any level that the Jets didn't hire Matt Rule because they needed Greg Williams to be their defensive coordinator. It never keeps me up at night.
No, that's not going to be a lament for many years to come. Hey, what's that bear doing out there? All right, when we return, we take it to the town that rocks and cut over to Cuyahoga County.
You call it
a
that?
Brand of Browns football that has the Rust Belt buzzing. And we'll do it with a mystery guest.
Ooh.
It from 21 yards away.
Leg race, Lamar Jackson, touchdown Ravens.
Josh got a man there. Cole Beasley makes a catch, and he is into the end zone. Touchdown, Buffalo. Touchdown, CeeDee Lamb.
This is insane.
OBJ, he's got a hat trick. 50 yards on the run. And really about a 70-yard run. Interception, and the Eagles break it open.
Brady throws a pass near sideline. Caught ball by Vaughn. 3-2-1. Touchdown, Tampa Bay. 5 touchdown passes from Brady to 5 different receivers. Touchdown! What a great run by Dalvin Cook. His second rushing touchdown this game.
Swings it right, caught by Mixon. Touchdown!
Back on Power Rankings, presented by Energizer. It's our favorite moment of the show because Dan and I, well, we can get bickering like an old married couple. And how do you relieve that pressure? Well, you introduce a new face to the conversation. So, as we split the two of us apart and we get our fancy slot style machine rolling, you say stop, no whammy style, and we get our mystery guest to pop onto the screen between the two of us. You ready, Dan?
I am, but it's the old sitcom trope too. When the show's running out of gas, they bring in the little red-haired kid, and that sometimes falls apart as well. So we'll see how this goes.
I think it always that never works.
No whammy, no whammy, no whammy, and stop.
Oh, it's the Cess
dog. Little red-haired boy.
Right. Alma mater,
am I a little
American
red-haired
University. Kid? No, Cess, you're a star. You're a guy that went to school created by an act of Congress, for goodness sakes. And even though you spent time in New York and England, you're a Browns backer. So a testament that sporting allegiances can be weird, right?
It is, and people have been asking, when is the last time Cleveland started 3-1? And I had to jog the memory, and it goes back to 2001. And what was I doing back then? I was living in Denver. I was living in the spare bedroom of a married couple, so I like to help these married couples, as you mentioned, and working at a ridiculous store called Cash Now as a customer-facing representative, helping people that wanted to take their paychecks and give 40% of it to the government and put the rest of it in their pocket. So an absurd time. That Browns team finished 7-9, and so did I.
That sounds like a business of desperation, and you were a kind face helping those people through hard times.
Yes, that's exactly what was happening there, and probably underneath the guise of the Colorado government.
So, Sess, you mentioned the Browns finished 7-9 that season. You didn't finish 7-9. You were 8-8, my brother. I can just tell it from your disposition. But what about these Browns? How much confidence do you have that they'll finish with a better record than 7-9 based on what you've seen through 4 games?
Well, I think, Dan knows as a Jets fan that you're always sort of waiting. Anything that good that occurs, you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. And what feels a little different this time around is that I just trust teams with nasty offensive lines, and that's what they have right now. Like a guy like Wyatt Teller, who was a random pickup last offseason, didn't make a big impact, is PFF's #1 rated player, not offensive lineman, but player this week. And through 4 weeks has been that guy. And so there really isn't a weakness along the line, where last year that was a major narrative. And I think that set the running game free, and it's helped Baker Mayfield. And, then you got guys like Odell Beckham, who the whole narrative was he just wasn't Odell Beckham last season, despite crossing 1,000 yards. This year, and this past game, you're getting the Odell Beckham experience that if you're a Browns fan, you're like, oh, this is what it feels like to have a star on your team. It's a completely alien feeling.
Yeah, I think it was more than a narrative with Beckham last year. He was just not a superstar type player for them in 2019. But yeah, he took that game over, and we talked about it, Mark, on the Around the NFL podcast, which we are on 3 times a week, that he picked up the entire team. When things looked like the whole world was collapsing, and there was a sideline shot after the Dak Prescott 2-point score that got it to 3 points in the fourth quarter, and the Browns had this look on their face. The players like, oh my God, this is going down. And then Beckham rips off that 50-yard run. That's what superstars do. They pick up the whole team, and that's what Beckham did. You hope that this is something like more to come, because if Beckham does catch that magic that made him this phenomenon with the Giants, the Browns just jump up a whole nother level.
Yeah, you said that really well on our show, too, that night, that it was Odell that seemed to be the one guy that was impervious to the same old Browns type of scenario. I mean, I was like trying to encapsulate that game for you guys during that pod, and I was still in shock. I don't think I even have understood yet what happened in that game. I mean, it's only starting to sink in, because it's just been total darkness for, I mean, no kidding, 25 years. And that's a long time. That's a big chunk of one's life, guys.
Yeah, not that I want to kind of get off of the let's plug our ATN podcast on power rankings, but I'm just going to maybe shift the conversation a little bit here, Sess, to the fact that it feels like they have an identity. The Hugh Jackson identity was, I'm trying to get these guys to learn how to play football and learn how to win. And then you have Freddie Kitchens that just looked perpetually confused with his stupid sweatshirt on. And now you said it. You got a nasty offensive line. You got the best rushing attack in the league, a dominant pass rush, and it feels like it's not, maybe Baker's going to save us. It feels like, you know what you're going to get whenever the Browns take the field in 2020.
Yeah, I think people were like, it's going to take, I thought it'll take months to find out what this offense is. They had a really rough offseason with everything that's going on, and it didn't. It took 2 weeks. You got over that Ravens disaster, and their identity was formed in that Bengals game, and I think it's been that way since. And my thing with Dallas was, would they get completely off who they were in a shootout and just try to become something else? I mean, they didn't. They want to run the ball, and so they ran the ball for 300-plus yards. To me, it just feels like something that only occurs in Madden or like deep state Tecmo Bowl scenarios, and it's happening in real life. And I think Kevin Stefanski is the reason. It seems like the only solid coach that they've had this century. I mean, they have had some loony bins running that team, and he feels to be on an even keel this time. We have a coach that's on an even keel. That helps me to be on an even keel as a fan, which is also quite rare.
healthy. I think just one correction for Browns history money. I believe it was deposed Browns GM John Dorsey that wore the stupid sweatshirt all the time, not Kitchens. Am I right about that, Mark?
Well, I mean Dorsey
Kitchens
won. He wore the stupid crew sweatshirt. Kitchens, remember, was wearing like the dog pound sweatshirt. It's like, hey, that's cool. You endear yourself to the fans, but you're the head coach. Like, let's maybe just get a little. You know, Belichick can do what he wants.
Kitchens wore the shirt when the helmet incident happened. He was caught like at a mall with his daughters 4 days later wearing a shirt, kind of like touting that helmet incident. It's like, is that really what the scenario we wanted to create in early December? You know. Exactly.
Well, he and his Ficus lirata fiddly fig tree made an appearance, and we're all better for it. The great Cess Dog, Mark Sessler, with us.
Cess Dog.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Dan, here we go. Third quadrant, 17 through 24. The Eagles get that big victory on Sunday night against the 49ers. So let's start there at number 19 with their first win to go with a tie at 1-2-1 atop the NFC East, and how you feel about the Birds.
Feel better. You wonder if this game will be kind of a flashpoint moment for the Eagles, where they find a way to win here on Sunday Night Football, and then they start to figure it out. But Carson Wentz has taken a lot of heat this season, and rightfully so. He's been one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the league from a production standpoint. But the fact that he was able to win this game with a touchdown pass to Travis Fulgham, another touchdown run, missing his top four wide receivers, Dallas Goedert, left tackle Jason Peters, and for parts of the night, right tackle Lane Johnson in and out of the lineup with an ankle issue. It just shows that Wentz is special. He's just going through a little bit right now, but I believe that the Eagles are going to be okay. I think this is the NFC East champion when it's all said and done.
Yeah, and I think it's the NFC East champion with a sub-500 record. To me, it's going to be 7-8-1 maybe, because if you look, they're going to go. They might lose their next couple. I mean, they've got Pittsburgh, they've got Baltimore. They do have these tough stretches that are said. They play the NFC West, so they still have to play Seattle. They have to go out to Arizona. The one thing the Eagles have is a dominant section of their football team that can control a game, and you're seeing it right here. And that's their defensive line. There was Derek Barnett, tackle for loss. Fletcher Cox was pressuring up the middle the entire game. Brandon Graham was in Mike McGlinchey's lap the entire game. So when you have a defensive line that can take over a game, and there's Josh Sweat there, that's something you can lean on to win a game. The other quarterback creates turnovers, short fields for the Eagles, and that's how maybe an offense that really does not look good because of that offensive line is able to get some scores and maybe eke out some of these, like you saw against the 49ers, 25-20 style games.
I deeply disagree. They will be an 8-7-1 division winner.
7-8-1, Dan. We'll see who's right. All right, let's get to the Raiders because they were also in the third quadrant, a team that started out 2-0. They won against the Saints on Monday Night Football. Raiders Nation was all up in arms with you and where you had them ranked, and now they've lost two since, and they've got a tough stretch of schedule ahead of them. So let's start with some sound that I really didn't appreciate with Derek Carr coming out of a tough loss. I really didn't against the Bills.
I'm sick of losing, Levi. I'm sick of working as hard as I do and as we do and going out there and losing. I mean, it sucks. Enough is enough.
And look, I get it. You're frustrated. The defense has not been good since he's been there. But I mean, this was in that game. This is in the fourth quarter, and it's the third time this season that Derek Carr has lost a football in the pocket. And two of those three times have led to points for the other team. And I think it's hard to go out there and say, I'm sick of losing when you kind of are part of that problem. And so much has been made about Derek Carr with his completion percentage, with his yardage totals, with his lack of interceptions. But you need to score more points. And I thought maybe he was going to break out of that this year. That deep pass to Aguilar in week 1 or 2, whatever that was they were putting up 30-plus points in their first two games against the Saints and Panthers. That's all come undone. They have no pass rush. Max Crosby is it. There is no one else that can rush the passer on that team. The secondary is not good. They spent a bunch of money in the linebacking level, and they're still not tackling and giving up a ton of points. So I get his frustration, but he's also part of the problem.
I think sometimes with Derek Carr, he says things that get him in trouble that maybe he didn't mean them that way, but they come out a certain way. Also, is it just me, or is that Southern drawl getting thicker every season in the league? He's starting to sound like the My Name is Earl guy at this point, but that's beside the point. I get it. I mean, he is who he is. he's the prime meridian of NFL quarterbacks right now. The team rises and falls with him as a quarterback, depending on how much they put around him. And, the offense is a little beat up right now, so you give him somewhat of a pass, or at least I do. But I agree with you on the defensive side of things. There is not a lot going on there.
Yeah, and I'm looking at their schedule now. Kansas City, Tampa, at Cleveland, at Chargers. It's, not that the Chargers are in that same category, but just look at those next three coming off of 2 losses. I get the frustration. The defense is not good, but at the same time, I think he's probably got to tighten it up a little bit as well if they're going to end up winning those games. Yeah.
8-7-1 for the Raiders too.
7-8-1. No, I'm going 7-8-1. I'm going 6. Bob got the boot, and by Bob I mean B.O.B. Bill O'Brien is out. The Texans took a Texas-sized tumble to the bottom of your power rankings, Dan. So we'll kick around if they still have a shot in the AFC South next. It's Power Rankings presented by the long-lasting power of Energizer. Remember, you can just go ahead and scan that QR code, and you can get to Dan's full article at NFL.com when it comes to the Power Rankings. Here is our fourth and final quadrant, 25-32, and we have got a new member of the bottom 4, and that is dropping 8 spots after slipping to 0-4, the Houston Texans, Dan.
Yeah, what's one thing the Texans do well right now, and that's on top of the obvious news here that Bill O'Brien was fired on Monday as the coach and general manager. So when you factor in what a mess they've been on the field and how top-heavy they are as a roster with all the internal struggles going on right now, I had to just drop them way down. It's a steep drop, but I think they've earned it over what's been a nightmare start to the season.
Well, they get the Jags next week to try to get that first win for an interim head coach, which is why I'm guessing they made the move this week. Jacksonville has returned to the spot we thought they would perhaps be at after that remarkable first week win against the Colts. But with the Texans, you do have some good on that team. So I would probably push back on 29. I like that offensive line. I understand they gave up their first round pick. That could be a top 5 pick now going to Miami along with their second, by the way. Both of those are gone. But Laramie Tunsil's a really good left tackle. They've invested heavily on that group, and it's a good group in front of Deshaun Watson. Problem is their wide receivers, they're all race cars, and those have to be fine-tuned and run perfectly in order to operate on a week-in, week-out, play-in, play-out basis.
But Money, you can't sing the praises of that line when they can't run the football at all. I mean, they don't do anything well.
I don't. Well, look, the problem is also in that quarterback. And you got to remember, it's hard to put it on an offensive line when he's holding the heck out of the ball. And he is moving that pocket to places that they're not used to protecting. So some of this is on Deshaun Watson, who, by the way, has got a giant contract that's going to kick in. Laramie Tunsil, giant contract that's going to kick in. They took on that contract to Brandon Cooks. Like, if I'm a GM and they're looking, I get it. It's 1 of 32. You've got to take the call and take the job when it comes. But, man, you got no picks. You are cash strapped. You're in a tough division with a lot of young players that are on the come in a very young team style league, division with the Colts and that offensive line with the Titans and all that talent. That's a tough spot. All right, it's time for Power Moves presented by Energizer, and here she is, the paragon of prime numbers, the premier predictive analytics authority in all the land, Cynthia Freeland, back with math. And Cynthia, today's algorithm is going to announce if a squad is a contender or a pretender, but this year, a little bit different of a contender-pretender because of the expanded playoffs. Your projections are whether or not these teams will win a playoff game. Did I get that correct?
You got it correct. One playoff game. In order to be a contender, you have to be able to win one playoff game. Just because of the expanded format, everyone making the division, that's different.
Cynthia, how do you allow the machine to adapt? Tell me about the robot within your building.
I pretty much just use this thing over here and this thing over all of it,
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, of course, we know exactly what you're talking about. The stuff over there. So let's get going. Let's start with the Buccaneers, team I actually just saw take on the Chargers, calling that Chargers game against the Bucs. Will they or will they not win a playoff game? Contender, pretender?
They're a pretender. Unfortunately for me,
Ooh.
I know the pass defense is a problem. You saw Justin Herbert light them up, Matt Money Smith. You saw the opportunity for where there are holes in that young secondary. That could be a problem going forward because not every single defense is going to allow Tom Brady to throw 5 different touchdowns to 5 different receivers. In fact, that's the first time in his career that that's happened.
I'm going to push back on that a little bit, Cynthia, and just say that I thought Justin Herbert had an exceptional game. They got a lot of pressure on him. They are a bear to run against in the run defense, and that means you're forced to throw. And they know you're throwing. JPP and Shaq Barrett were in his face all game. I like their corners. I think Carlton Davis is great. I think Antoine Winfield is probably going to be in the conversation as Defensive Rookie of the Year. He's played that well in that kind of Troy Polamalu mold. So I'm a big believer in the Bucs. And granted, for me, that could be recency bias just because I saw what I thought was a very effective defense to go with, Tom Brady throwing 5 touchdown passes and setting a franchise record.
Yeah, Herbert obviously had his way with the secondary on some of those deep throws, but yeah, the front 7 of Tampa is so good. And now we have definitive proof that Tom Brady, this is not Joe Namath on the Rams, this is not Johnny Unitas on the Chargers. He will light you up with the right supporting cast, which to me makes them a major threat. I'm pushing back on the machine too.
There we go.
Push back
2
on the
against
machine.
1.
Push back on the machine, but remember, you have to win a playoff game, and there are good quarterbacks that are able to make a lot of different types of passes that will make it to the playoffs, right? You have to win the playoff game, not make it.
We said it a little bit earlier. I think they're the second best team in the NFC. So it's me against math. Guess who wins that, by the way? Yeah, this guy's going to look like an idiot in a couple of weeks. All right, let's go to the Seahawks. The number 6 ranked team for Dan in his power ranking. Cynthia, contender, pretender?
So they're contender for me for 2 reasons. 1, because Russell Wilson's ridiculous and amazing. And 2, they're able to overcome a defense that is not able to generate pressure. So that is a problem, and it is a potential for, I thought, would be maybe put them in the category of pretender. However, their run game and the strength of their run game helps mitigate that. So the fact that their defense, if as long as Jamal Adams stays healthy and is able to keep helping bring that pressure, that will be a good thing for them going forward.
It is weird to me that they get Jamal Adams, which was a move that really obviously helps their defense, but you're like asking him to be your top pass rusher. I know that's a part of his game, but it really tells me about the limitations of their roster. I agree that they are a contender, but like also we've watched enough playoff football over the years that you need to get after quarterbacks in the playoffs. And guess what? They're going to be playing, like you said, the best quarterbacks in football in January. They're going to get picked apart if they can't find a way to generate a legit pass rush beyond their safety.
My addition to this conversation is this. Considering they each have 1 Super Bowl championship, and Russell's going to get his MVP this year, when a quarterback overcomes everything else that maybe is working against him on his own roster, moving forward, should we call it Wilsonian or Mahomesian? What would you, because Wilson's done it longer, right? So it should be Wilsonian based on precedent, shouldn't it?
Need that second ring, though.
Maybe it could find like a celebrity couple name. Like the Russell Mahomian, right? Like the couple name. Blend it.
That's a mouthful.
Right. Masoni. Okay.
Let's workshop this, guys, off camera.
That's right. That's right. We'll trademark it and make a bunch of money. How about the Packers? Pretender, contender, Cynthia?
So I have them in the same sort of category as the Seahawks. They're contenders, but part of that is the fact that Aaron Rodgers is able to overcome a lot of deficits. Their defense is giving up just a ton of yards per play on every single down. That's against the run and against the pass. And he's finding different pass catchers, this diversity of pass catchers without Devontae Adams, that's really making a difference in how this offense operates. Now, I'm not overestimating a win versus the Falcons defense, but I am saying that he is finding different receivers and different ways to get it done. We've seen it, and that is really what makes him overcome a defense that's not helping him out as much.
I'm with you on this one, Cynthia. I don't want to challenge Cynthia or the machine. I love the Packers, and I like the way everything on the team is coming together right now. So I agree, contender.
Yes, most definitely. Who would have thought we wanted to see Aaron Rodgers in the Super Bowl against Patrick Mahomes through 4 weeks? But that's where we're at, I think, right? Yeah. Cynthia, you can read it all. This is just a fingernail. You get, or a thumbnail, as they like to say, not a fingernail. That was weird. At NFL.com/Freeland.
Just a fingernail of information.
Just ahead, we advance scout the Week 5 must-watch matchups. Our colleague Bucky Brooks always says styles make the fight. And we got a street brawl on the banks of Lake Erie between two awesome offensive lines and punishing running games. We'll get a look at next. Get to impact matchups here on Power Rankings presented by Energizer. And Dan, these are the three matchups that we look at that could have the biggest bit of movement as it pertains to your Power Rankings for the following week, which is why the Panthers were in their last week against the Arizona Cardinals following their game and victory over the Chargers. Nailed it. And here we go. We're going to take the other half of that Charger-Panther contest that led to us putting the Panthers in last week and go Saints versus Chargers Monday Night Football. We start with number 10. And what Justin Herbert has been able to do through 3 games, he does not look like a rookie. Why? Because he leads the league. Not rookies. He leads the league in third down passing when the chips are down and you need a pass to move the sticks and keep a drive going. he's been making those throws. As for the Saints, Alvin Kamara's been the best back in the league. Stop giving the ball to Taysom Hill. My goodness, he fumbles every other time. Drew Brees is going to go crazy. But I think this is a good matchup. It may not look it on paper because of the record, but this is going to be a tough defense for Brees, and it's going to be another tough test for Herbert. I'm anxious to see either side.
I think it's a great game, and Herbert handled the Tampa Bay defense. Why couldn't he handle the Saints? Although at least the Saints were cleaning it up a little bit on defense, especially on the penalty side of things, which has been a mess through the first 3 weeks. They got better in that department in week 4.
Yeah, next up, we already got into it with Mark Sessler, but it's Colts at Browns. And I said it, right before we came into this segment when we were finished with Cynthia there. I said, Bucky Brooks says styles make a fight. This is two teams that want to do the same thing, right? Heavyweight, just a straight heavyweight bout between offensive lines and that defensive line. They want to run the ball. They don't want to take a lot of chances. They're not asking Baker to do too much. Instead, they're leaning on a ground game that's working. And you got, Jarvis Landry throwing passes like that. So, Baker, go ahead, take this playoff. Same with the Colts. Instead of throwing 46 times like he did in week 1, the last 3 games for Phillip Rivers, 25, 21, 29. They've got their identity, and they're going to be a load to deal with.
I have no idea what to make of the Colts right now. I know the defense is playing well, but the opponents need to be factored in. I want to see Phillip Rivers in a big spot where he needs to make plays. I think the Browns will provide that good test. You nailed this one. These are two teams that could make a big move in either direction based on this game.
And you know what? I'm going back to the Carolina well. And since we already hit on it earlier and we hit on it last week, and Atlanta's winless, but this one's more about confirmation bias, I think, for those that thought Matt Rule was going to be able to figure out the NFL unlike some other college coaches. That was a good Chargers team. They forced 4 turnovers. Derek Brown announced his arrival in that game. Patrick Chin is awesome. And Yetur Gross-Matos, as I said, got his first sack on Sunday. You beat the Falcons, their next 3, Dan. Bears at home, Saints, and Falcons again. I mean, we could be looking at 5-3, 6-2.
That would be one of the stories of the season. Matt Ryan, is he part of the future in the Falcons? It's going to be a complete reboot there. He would be an interesting guy if he entered the trade market after the season. Just random speculation.
Let's do some quick hitters here. A couple teams that we weren't able to lean on, and that is honest assessments. And we start with the Patriots. Obviously, a weird game on Monday night, but kind of where you at as you look forward and what's on their schedule in terms of opponents moving forward.
Yeah, the Patriots are fascinating to me watching that game last night because it reminds you what would have happened if someone out there in the NFL was more aggressive in the courtship of Cam Newton and left the Pats with this situation at quarterback. So sometimes it's better to be lucky than smart. Good job by the Patriots there.
How about the Cowboys?
I mean, we talked about it last week. They have no ability to stop anyone. And the Browns are a better offense than I think people realized. And we saw what Odell Beckham did. But the cavalry ain't coming, money. There's no reinforcements on the way. I think this is a season-destroying problem that they cannot get stops.
I'll encourage those of you watching, if you haven't seen it, and I know Dan loves when I plug the color analyst that works alongside me on the Chargers broadcast, at Move the Sticks, but did a brilliant breakdown. And look, Twitter is full of 2 types of people. There's really no one in the middle. You're either good or you're bad. You're constantly negative. You're constantly positive. DJ is constantly positive. And my goodness, after watching the film of the Cowboys, what his assessment was of that defense is unlike anything I've ever heard him say about a team. Now, look, I'm Teflon, but Dan's an easy target. The slings and arrows of the Fanatics' fury drill deep into his football analyst soul, like this one. The Zeuser still punishing the Seahawks for picking up
I got
Adams.
your 2 first-round
Constructive
picks, buddy.
criticism is next. Oh, it's time for my favorite part of our Power Ranking show, and that is constructive criticism.
Oh.
When you, the fans, have a chance to take your shots on the old Zeuser. The Colts get zero respect, I tell you. They destroyed 2 teams, dominated on defense in both games. NFL dropped 1 in their power rankings. Hashtag Colts Nation deserves better. Hashtag for the shoot.
The NFL dropped them 1. I like that. It came from all the way to the top. Roger Goodell was Colts go down. Show me something against the Browns on offense. That's where I'm focused on with the Colts right now. Do I trust that offense? We'll see.
Look, Dan, you were tapped on the shoulder with the sword of the shield. You are now at that table. You have been knighted. You can be referred to as the NFL. They are your and the NFL's power rankings. Here we go from Mike Fragomeni. This is a terrible. How do you get one of the 3 Vikings team? So high up on the list, huh?
You know what? Certain teams, the Cowboys were the team last year for me. The Vikings are the team this year. They may be struggling, but I see a good team buried under all the wreckage, and I do think they are going to turn the season around to be over 500 by the midway point of the season. So there's your ranking reason.
Just don't look at the secondary. If you can just kind of like block out that part of the team, you might be able to make a case there. All right, let's get one more in here. Finally, constructive criticism on power ranking. I love these. I love when it's just a straight, hey, as always, a joke.
And as always, Fatel one, you read it and you watch the show, so I win. I'm number 1 in the power rankings.
I'm going to predict that 49ers fans are the ones that come after you this week for dropping them all the way down to 14 after it was really just a one-man issue, and Nick Mullins and Beathard came in. And
they're civil wine and cheese folk. They don't tend to get too fired up.
I respectfully disagree. Thanks for following this Fancy Pants feature. We'll be back again next week, same place, same time. So let's make it a date and do it again in 167 hours.
Ooh.